What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. If you're a new viewer, my name is Charlie, and this is Surreal Stacks Poker. If you're a returning viewer, I just want to thank you for your continued viewership. Today we're going to be doing things just a little bit differently, as we're going to go over some cash game footage, but we're also going to go over a tournament that I played over at the WSOP Circuit. We played the main event at Harris, and I think this is going to be an excellent episode. So, if you like this sort of content, and you love that intro, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. Go ahead. I'll wait. Alright, let's dive into it.
Can I please get you to sign the media waiver?
No.
Alright, thank you guys. Thanks for joining me. As you guys know, the WSOP doesn't allow me to film while the action is happening. So what I did was I created a couple graphics, I wrote down notes. If you see me looking down, that's me referring to my phone. I'm not going to keep you guys waiting any longer. The first hand we pick up is going to be the ace-jack of clubs. That's going to be under the gun. We decide to make a raise of $600, which is 6 times the big blind. We end up getting 8 callers heading to the first flop, which is 6-deuce-9 with 2 clubs. And considering that action, I would say that's a pretty good board for us as we have the nut flush draw. So I lead for 1,500 to isolate players who've connected with this flop. We do get 2 callers and we head to a turn. The turn card is the king of diamonds, and I'm not sure if that's a good card or a bad card for me. We could represent it like we have a hand like ace king, but we could have also just got floated with a king high from one of those 2 players. Given the fact that they did call my flop bet on such a dry board, I'm going to lean more towards that. That's a good card for me. I think a better play would be to bet, but in real time, I check. So I wanted to, for 2 reasons. I wanted to isolate my opponents. I wanted to realize my equity, but it was really for pot control. So the worst thing that could happen here is I get blown off my hands and I don't get a chance to see the river. But when both opponents check back, the river is a queen of diamonds. We miss our flush and we're left with ace high. We think about putting a big pot size bet, but ace high is enough for showdown value. The middle position player goes full pot. Big blind folds. The very first thought that popped into my head was, I have the winning hands and don't lay it down. I now go through this range and I can pretty safely subtract a king or a queen, because a queen has enough showdown value and a king should have bet that turn card to deny equity from draws. Now, if he has king-queen specifically, that's a different story. But what king-queen does he have that calls flop? King-queen of clubs? Maybe. But I have him down to 1 value hands, and I have club blockers. Now, the bluffs are plentiful. Miss straight draws, miss diamonds, miss clubs. Even though we have blockers, now I'm leaning more towards a call. I think I have data. Now I need to look at the player and see if I can pick up a read, right? So he's pretty even keel. I don't know, I can't get any major reads on him, but we do have to go with our gut. And we put in a huge hero call worth 20% of our starting stack. No need to do this so early. I could easily have crippled myself, but the opponent looks at me and says, nice call, kid. Mucks his cards. The next hand I play is the 8-9 of spades in the big blinds. The button makes it 600, we call, and it folds around. So we're going 2 ways to a flop of king, 9-9, 2 clubs. I check for deception and the button leads for 1,500. I call. The turn brings another club. Now I take control, I bet 2,500 and the button thinks for longer than average and makes the call. The delay in reaction kind of makes me think that the button doesn't have a club in his hand, because if he had the king with a club, he'd probably call quicker. So I would imagine that if no club peels off, we're good here. And to my dislike, the jack of clubs peels off. And now I don't think he has a club, but there is 4-2 of flush out there. I actually make a bet of 3,500 as a bluff, turning my trips into what looks like a flush. And I end up getting snap calls. And the villain turns over ace king. No club. So we scoop in another really nice pot. The next orbit, we're in the big blind, and we pick up the 10-7. The under the gun +3 raises for 1,000, and the button calls. Given the dynamic, I decide to make a call, and complete the bet. We had 3 ways to a flop of 10, 8, 3. We check in game flow, and the original raiser makes it 2K. The button folds, and we make the call. We could be ahead, but we could also be up against an overpair, so we play a little bit cautiously. When the turn comes at 9, that gives us a little bit more information, and we still do have top pair. This time, I decide to take control of the betting, and I lead for 3K. The player makes the call. That rules out any overcards that whiffed, so he could have a big draw, or he could have a made hand better than 10s. The river is a deuce, which is pretty good for us, completes the board, and I decide to lead out for 4,500. This continues to tell my story, and I actually think that I'm ahead when I do this. So I'm targeting a hand that could potentially be a draw and folds, or a pair that's lower than my pair of 10s. I didn't really think he had overcards at the time, but when I bet the 4,500, he snap calls, turns over aces, and we lose this pot. I think I played that fine. Sometimes you're just going to run into aces, and I don't discourage you from value betting your hands. Oftentimes, I find myself missing a bet more than I find myself getting snapped by aces. So like I said, I don't think I played that bad, and I still encourage you to go for your value bets. At this point, we take a 15-minute break. I digest what just happened. I come back to my stack with a fresh mindset, ready to go. The next hand we pick up is the Jack 10 of diamonds on the button. Under the gun +3, raises to 1,200, and there were 2 callers. When it gets to me, I decide to take the aggressive route, and I 3-bet it to 2,700. And we get 1 caller. This isolates the action. And we flop the dream. 7, 8, 9 with 2 hearts. The opponent checks, and I lead for 3K, and he calls. The turn is a 5. Now here, I decide to swing for the fences. I'm trying to target a hand that makes a straight that's not as high as my straight, like pocket 6s. He does fold, and it seems like I blew it. But if he didn't have a hand to call with, he probably would have folded a reasonable bet, and God forbid he just turned a straight or a pair with a straight draw, he would probably be drawing dead and willing to pay me off. So when there's a small chance that it's possible, you push the envelope. The next hand we pick up is the ace-queen. The very next hand we pick up is the ace-queen, and it's the ace-queen of hearts in the cutoff. The under the gun +3 raises to 1K, and we beat 3-bet again to 2,700. This time we go 3 ways to a flop of 10, 9, 5, 2 diamonds. The flop checks around, and the turn is a 5. I decided to bet the turn, and looking back, I don't like this play as much because it's a very inconsistent story. Just what do I bet here for value that checks the flop? And I do get called in both spots. The river is a miracle ace, and it checks around to me. I bet 10,000, and they both fold. We kind of get bailed out there, but listen, you take those pots however you can get them. The very next hand we play is going to be the ace-deuce offsuit, and we call a raise in the big blind in a 3-way pot. The flop comes out ace-deuce-8, and the pre-flop aggressor bets 900. We raise to 45, and he calls. The turn is the worst card, it's another 8. I check, and surprisingly the villain checks back. The river goes check, check, it's a 9, and the villain turns over the ace-10 and scoops in a nice one. Another orbit goes by, and we just don't pick up anything that's worth playing until we're back in the big blinds and we pick up the 7-8. It gets raised to 1,200, and there's 2 callers. We decide to make the call, and the flop comes 7, 10, deuce. I check. The original raiser bets 1,000, and it folds around to me. The way I see it, it's a lot more like a big blind sort of flop than a middle position pre-flop raiser. So I elect to bump him up to 3,500. I immediately get met with a jam of 14,500 as he shoves it in my face. So he probably at this point has jacks or better, and I'm not going to draw on it. So I fold, and I lose another big one, and my opponent makes a good play. So next hand, again, I'm in the big blind, and the middle position player raises to 1,600. The button calls, and I raise to 4,100, and I get 2 callers. The flop is ace-deuce-deuce. Not a good flop for us. But our opponents don't know that. I decide to bet 7,500 into the pot, and I get 2 folds. Next hand we play is the ace-10 in middling position right before the break. We elect a smooth call. The button makes it 1,800, and the big blind calls. We go 3-way to a flop of king, ace, deuce with 2 clubs. The button bets 3,500, the big blind folds. It's on us, and we elect to make the call. The turn comes out with the 3 of clubs, putting 2 flush draws on board. We elect to check, and the button checks behinds. Now the river is the 4 spades, completing the backdoor flush. Now, I decide to rep a monster and bet 7,500. The opponent calls me, and to my surprise, he turns over pocket queens, and we take down a big one right before the break. So now we head to another 15-minute break, and we kind of just digest, get our minds back in order, ready to play. Next few orbits go by, not really much happening for us, stack kind of dwindling a little bit. We do get a player at the table who I recognize, very well-known player, millions of dollars worth of earnings, very aggressive player. Sits down at the table, right on the button as the dealer is dealing, just in time for cards. We look down in the big blinds at pocket kings. Now this player is an aggressive player who's definitely able to make moves. So I decide to set the trap, and he doesn't disappoint. He bets 10K on the button, and we just smooth call with our pocket kings. And my thought process was, if an ace comes on board, I will save myself money, and if an ace doesn't come on board, I wonder how much he is going to spend trying to convince me that he has a better hand. So when the flop comes out, ace, ace, 7, rainbow board, I check, he bets 15, and I call. I don't believe he has an ace for 1 second. So again, I want to see how far he wants to take it. The turn brings out another ace, right? So now I continue to lay the trap as he checks, and I just check behind. The river brings a 10, and he checks. Now, I decide to bet 5K to induce a bluff, and that's exactly what happens. I bet 5K, the opponent raises to 30K. Now, everything in my body, mind, and soul tell me that I should jam into him, but for some reason, I actually play it smart and just elect to call. I fully prepare to take down this pot, and my opponent turns over quadzillas with ace-queen offsuit. He absolutely devastates me, as I didn't expect that at all. And my stack plummets to an all-time low this session of 48,000, which is only 8,000 more than starting stack. Now, this is not good. It's right before the dinner break. Very critical hands, did not go in my direction. I think to myself what I could have did differently, and I guess I could have maybe pushed the envelope a little bit more pre-flop and bet a little bit more aggressively as opposed to trying to lay the trap. But chances are, if that's the case, I end up just going broke because he wasn't going to lay down his hand. So I actually think that I lost the minimum, and my call actually preserved my stack. Now, in real time, it kind of puts me in a little bit of a slump. I go back to being card dead, not playing many hands. I basically just wait out the dinner break and ultimately make it to dinner break with like 43,000 in chips. I get a 30-minute break, I go get some food, I go recharge, and I get right back to it. So we come back from dinner break, and we're refreshed, we ate a little bit, we thought it out, we feel better. We pick up the jack deuce of clubs in the big blinds. Now, the blinds are 15 3K. So the 3K big blind and the 3K ante is out, taking 6K out of my stack. We have about 41,000 behinds. And the middle position player bets 6K. Folds around to me, we elect to make the call. So we have 9K invested in this pot. The flop comes out, jack, 7, king with 2 spades. He bets 10K. And I think about it, it's 10K to win about 28.5K. So I'm getting about 2.8 to 1 on a call there. I should be making this call, but if I do make this call, I only have about 32K behinds in order for me to play with moving forward. Ultimately, the odds just make too much sense. And if you're taking a stab at it with a hand like eights or something like that, maybe he'll stop his aggression on the turn. Now, I'm either trying to stay ahead or I'm crushed right now and I'm looking for a miracle card. So when the turn comes out, a jack of spades, that's a miracle card. I don't know where that card came from, but to make matters better, my opponent checks to me, indicating weakness. Now, I think he has a king, and I want to pounce on that king. So I snap jam into him, and he takes a couple of seconds, and he thinks about his options. Say about 10 seconds go by, and he elects to make the call. Now, based off of that call time, I am excited to show him my hands, and I turn over trips with the jack deuce of clubs. My opponent shows me the bad news with the ace jack of spades. So not only does he have my trips crushed, he also has the flush draw to go along with it. Not like it matters. I'm drawing dead to one out and one out only, and that's going to be a deuce, and I have 3 of them left. The river comes out, a 3 of spades, knocking me out of this tournament, sending me to the rail in absolute agony. I really thought I was ahead there, and we were only about an hour and a half away from day 2. I thought that was going to be another double up, and it seems like I was just off a little bit today in what my expectations were versus what the reality of my situation was. So we elect to take it on the chin. We learned a lesson, and we're going to continue our trip, and we're going to keep moving. So I appreciate you guys. I appreciate you guys being here so that I could vent to you my struggles. But it's not over yet, so stay tuned. All right, so we decide it's not too late yet. We're going to go get some dinner with our friends. So we head over to one of the local casinos who has a very, very famous food place that we always like to go to. But I get there just a little bit earlier than everyone. And I know what you're saying. You're not going to play more poker, right? Not based off of how that last session just went. And folks, I'm here to tell you guys otherwise. So come with me. And as you can see, we somehow find ourselves at another poker table as we wait. There's currently a $500 high hand going on, and there's only one table running, and it's a 1-2 game. I figure, what a no-brainer. We risk very little to possibly make out very well. And one of the first hands we pick up is the king-queen off. We raise it up to 10. Under the gun +1 calls, and under the gun +2, min raises to 20. It begins to fold around to me. I know this is not a fun juicer bet. Early position check raises is usually a nutted hand, but we also can't fold for 10 more. So we're going to take a flop, but we're going to take it a little bit cautiously, assuming that the under the gun +2 player has a real hand. So now it's heads up, just mano y mano. We're looking for a good flop for our hand, also keeping in mind my opponent's pre-flop aggression. So when we land on the flop and it comes out king high, initial thought, pretty good flop. We're still going to check it over to our opponent just to keep in line with game flow. And since he was the pre-flop aggressor, we expect him to put out a bet, which he does, and we elect to call his $17 bet. So we make the call, and we see a turn card. And when the turn brings an ace, not the best turn card in the deck for us, just in case we were up against an ace-queen, ace-jack hand like that, and we were ahead, we could have just got beat. So we elect to check it, and my opponent checks it over. When the 7 of spades comes out, same exact situation, I check it over, and when my opponent checks back, I assume I'm good.
You get the full house?
Pocket king.
This gentleman actually just checked back pocket kings in fear that I had pocket aces, which there's 2 hands on this board that beat him, and he checked back. If that's not an indication of what this game is about to be like, I don't know what is. That kind of information makes one thing clear. These people are sitting here waiting for the high hand to hit, and that's all. In fact, they've been sitting here waiting for the high hand to hit since 1969. You need to tighten up your range tremendously. Here in the small blind, facing an early position raise of 10, this player making that bet from early on screams monster. But we want to make something happen, and I won't be able to outnit these folks. So as players elect to call one by one, by the time it gets to me, I literally can't fold. I feel like I would be shaming my family's name by laying down 4-way action from the small blind. So let's mix it up a bit. I'd rather go home a loser than a failure. That being said, we are certain that we're up against the pocket pair, 10s being the lowest from the opener's range. So we keep that in mind in the back of our head as we see a flop, which doesn't look horrendously bad. We flop a pair and a flush draw. We take a look back at our cards to confirm we have the queen of spades. Stop right there, because when you flop a flush, you know you flopped a flush. So when you see your opponent do the suit check on a monotone board, he probably doesn't have a flush. My opponent jams, and I get free information that helps me make my decision.
Somebody else I would call, but I'm going to throw it away.
I'm kind of feeling the same way. I have a pair and a flush draw. Someone else I'm going to call. You're folding, right?
I'm out.
Yeah, he fold.
I just want to show him.
I fold. Pocket 10s are good with the 10 of spades.
I have 9-3.
You sure you won? I sure won.
Pocket kings are good with the king of spades. And that's why you aren't allowed to talk while there's still pending action. Those guys have been sitting here together playing since 1969. I would be a fool not to fear that verbal warning, as he knows the player at risk very well. These next few hands showcase why it's so important to plug your leaks, because here I'm just spewing chips to everyone, and I'm doing it with marginal hands. They're either getting check raised pre-flop, or I'm missing flops and I'm being forced to fold. You could literally watch my chip stack shrink. This is my biggest leak in my game, and it's stack preservation. You rarely ever hear about it spoken about on cash game perspective, but you want to have as many chips as possible when you get your rush of cards. Every 1 or 2 chips that you lose could be worth 3 or 4 on a double up. So, giving money away like this is highly advised against, so don't do it. Watch me do it instead, and drop a like, because it's painful to watch, and it's even more painful to do continuously. So, drop a comment, and in return, you'll get the HBO special. You get to help your boy out. Because, as you can see, now I have no chips left for my flight on American Airlines. That's right, we peel back the rockets, and we look over at our stack, which is dwindled down to gas money. It's alright, anything can change in an instant on a poker table, so we just do like they do and min raise the nuts to try to keep the action in. And we get 2 callers. We're looking to get it in on any flop basically. If 1 or 2 of my opponents connect, I don't have enough to lay it down anyway, but remember, there's a high hand at play, and we just flopped huge. The pot is so small, and my chip stack is so light, that we hit the brakes on our original idea to just jam any flop, because it's worth way more as a $500 high hand if we can get lucky and pair the board. So we actually just check it over, and we get 2 checks behind. Turn card brings a 7, which changes nothing. We have the nuts, and we still want to pair the board. So we check it over again, and we get 2 checks behind. When I see that 8 peel off, I said bingo. I figured I just made the high hand with 1 table running and aces full. We put out a go over the top bet, and my opponent took the bait, and I snap jam, and I get snap called so fast and turns over pocket 5 like it's the nuts. But then I showed him the nuts. Is that a high hand?
No, it's a full king.
Son of a bitch. That comment I just made came from my soul. You can tell when people are being genuine with you, and boy, that came from the deepest depths of my soul. We do win a decent sized pot, but man, that high hand would have been so sweet. At this point in the session, we've been doing a lot of nothingness at this table. Not only have they been sitting here since '69, they've been waiting for me this whole time. I win chips, everyone adds on for 20 and 40 bucks. Dinner is fast approaching. I have to go out with a bang. I can't just rack up now, plus I have momentum on my side, and I feel good, despite getting my ass kicked basically all day. So we're not racking up. In fact, we're going to be adding on. We have a few more tricks up our sleeve we're going to use to try to bang these folks over the head. And the first of which is my personal favorite, the add-on. And I add on for 100 bucks. I find myself on the flop by the time I can get set up. I haven't even looked at my hand yet. I called the raise blind pre-flop while I set up my camera. To my liking, I literally woke up with the second nuts, a flop straight, with the backdoor straight flush draw. I know, I'm an optimistic. To make this hand even more sweet is I get a raise and a re-raise before me. And now it's my turn.
Oh, wow.
I'm on.
On.
I didn't even know you was my fault.
You have 7-10?
Slow down.
I have a straight.
2-7.
Flush.
Nice hand. He doesn't say I have a flush. He doesn't say I got you beat. He doesn't say I got it. He doesn't indicate at all that he's won this hand. He turns his cards over and says deuce 7. When you pray for patience, you don't get patience. You get the opportunity to be patient. I guess this is a good opportunity.
Had a flush draw last time.
Are you kidding me right now? I just lost my entire stack to a rivered flush and got slow rolled, and you think now's the time to tell me what you had last hand? Cash me out. Oh, that's right. I don't have any money left. Luckily, we went broke just in time for dinner. So we pack up our things, we head to the dinner spot, and we enjoy this delicious meal. Today, the cost of doing business was high. Was it worth it? Well, you tell me.